and welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us today for our Get You Ready session focusing on careers in engineering. My name is Kiran Sandhu and I am a Widening Access Officer here at Brunel University, London. And I work with young people from schools and colleges living various programs. They come on campus and we go into schools. And obviously we're delivering everything virtually at the moment, so we would like to welcome you virtually today. Today we have a range of excellent panelists to provide you with wholesome information focusing on engineering. First of all, we have Raj Sidhu from Careers, we have John Lamberstock from Placements, a Brunel University student, Beth, who's studying civil engineering at the moment. And last but not least, we have Alexandra Raynac, who is a Brunel alumni, who's a former Brunel University London student. Just to let you know, this session is currently being recorded and you can access this recording on our website shortly after this session. If you have any questions for our panelists during this session, that's absolutely great and we really encourage this. So please can you use the Q&A button which is located at the bottom of the screen. This will allow you to ask questions and they'll be asked to the panelists by me on your behalf at the end. So if you think of any questions at all, please put it in the Q&A throughout the session and I'll ask all questions at the end. So let's begin. First of all, I'd like to introduce Raj Sidhu from Careers, and Raj will be providing you information about the graduate job market and types of jobs on offer. So Raj, over to you.
Hi everybody, thank you very much Kiran for that introduction. Hi guys, as Kiran said, my name is Raj Sidhu. I look after careers consultancy here at the university. Been looking after the majority of the engineering courses for a number of years now. I'm going to give you a bit of an insight into what we do, how we do it, but also a bit of a state of play of the market as well to give you a bit of an understanding about what's going on currently. So if I could have the next slide. Perfect. Okay, so let's start with the current market. Now, there is some apprehension about the market at the moment, so I thought we'd start with a bit of a picture. Let's provide you with a bit of an outlook on the landscape. Obviously, we've been hit quite hard and the market does remain competitive. But what the good news is the recovery has begun. We did bounce back quite quickly. Now, guys, I said I looked after engineering, but I also look after IT and mathematics here at the university as well. And the good news for me was across the board on the courses I look after, and particularly in engineering, I saw a correction. I didn't see it too quickly, but I have seen a correction. And that correction has particularly been buoyant in certain sectors. And I'll go on to talk about that a little bit later. So the recovery has definitely begun. But what do we all need to do in order to remain competitive in this marketplace? And this is something I wanted to pick up on as well. There are some key traits in what we need to do, because as the market is still in correction, there are a few traits that we all need to display as job hunters in order to be effective and to secure the jobs that are out there. The number one point on my list is something that me and John works on placements and I work on careers. So we work very closely together throughout the university experience. And one thing I know we're both very passionate about is the networking that everybody engages with pre-university, during university, and especially post-university as well. So networking with individuals in your sector, be that whichever platform you prefer. That might be your LinkedIn, that might be your social media, and that might even be face-to-face networking as we all come back together again as a community and start having more face-to-face events. Gaining valuable experience is the next point I put on there. Of course, in order to compete with other candidates, in order to stay competitive in the marketplace, any kind of work experience is going to be valuable. Now, guys, if that's going to be like virtual internships or virtual insight days, let that happen. That's an excellent opportunity to get something on those CVs. Skills development is something we are particularly passionate about here at Brunel. So if you decide to come to Brunel, I really hope you do. One of the key things that we offer is lots of skills development programs, and that kicks in right as soon as you join. So we have programs which are targeted at first years, which is basically in an aim to develop those skills so that you're competitive when you apply for internships, when you apply for placements with people like John and his team, and then definitely when you apply for graduate jobs as well. Targeting your applications is something that's going to be particularly useful, especially in this market. What that basically means is every job's slightly different. Every recruiter offers a different set of traits, skills, and competencies. And what we're looking for you to do is to change your applications so that you're targeting those and matching the needs of the recruiters. All of that really is underpinned by the point that you need to differentiate yourself. How are you going to be different from the other job hunters, and how are you going to be able to compete? In order to do that, I would say seek advice and guidance. Right now, pre-entry, that may be careers advice available from your school, but when you join us, we are definitely open. And we have a very student-centered approach to everything we do. We are a very positive, enthusiastic, and motivated team. We make no excuses for that. We are very, very passionate, as you can see by John's smile, about what we do. And we deliver quite a lot of material within curriculum, but what really underpins all of our work is one-to-one sessions that we would be having with you. So if we can move on to the next slide. I wanted to just give you, as I promised, a bit of a picture of what's going on. And I wanted to put up some recent employers, but also some recent jobs as well. So I said that the market started correcting itself, and we did see some civil jobs come back quite quickly. We have seen jobs across the board, both electrical and mechanical. So on screen there is just a range of employers. Now, one thing that we do particularly well at Brunel is we don't just rest on our laurels. We've always been very good at attracting employers. It's probably been through our reputation of always delivering placements. But one thing that we do particularly continuously go about engaging new relationships. So there are some very established businesses there, and there are some job titles that give you some idea of the kind of job titles that we have advertised for recently. Hopefully that prompts some questions, so please do save those, and Kieran will be fielding those towards the end. On to my next slide then, please. Perfect. I wanted to give you a bit of an insight into our overall approach. Our approach is a very proactive one. We are constantly developing new relationships and sourcing new jobs. It's not about just having excellent relationships in this market. In this current market, you have to go out there and you have to seek new opportunities. And that's something that's definitely been happening. And the Professional Development Centre has its own employer engagement team. The placement team are extremely proactive in going out and seeking opportunities. And your careers consultants have a wealth of experience between them to demystify the market for you. I mentioned earlier on our approach, and really guidance underpins everything we do, and the way we deliver that guidance is a very student-centered approach. What that basically means is that we do lots of workshops for you. There will be lots of opportunity to engage in various platforms, but really the number one thing that we can do for you is offer you one-to-one guidance to really understand you, your skills, and the kind of jobs that you are interested in. We are very passionate and we are extremely dedicated to graduate destinations. And that, I think, has been testament to the amount of work that we've done over the past couple of years, particularly in lockdown. Some really good innovations that we've done, including running lots of online platforms and hosting lots of virtual careers fairs as well. So guys, hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into the work we do in the careers team. I'm going to hand you over now to John, who can give you an insight into the other part of our partnership, which is working with placements. Over to you, John.
There we go. Sort of. So I'm John Lambert, Staff and Placements Officer for most of the engineering courses at Brunel. So you might be wondering what a placement is. So a sandwich year placement is a year typically after your second year, forms the third year of your degree. It's an assessed part of your experience at Brunel. and it's a paid proper job out in industry, typically somewhere in the range of 16 to 25,000. And what we do is we support you during the second year, finding your placement, being successfully recruited for your placement, and preparing for it. At the point at which you're actually out on placement, then there's a whole academic team that take over and run the academic side of things and support your welfare and pastoral support. So we don't just wave goodbye to you and off you go. Good luck. There's a whole range of support that comes into play once you're actually out on placement. If you could move the slides forward, that would be great. So reasons to do a placement. Why add this extra year in? So as Raj said, it's all about, when you come out of Brunel, and it seems a little bit strange to be talking about exiting Brunel before you even started, but it's really important to be thinking like this, is when you leave Brunel, you want to be differentiating yourself in the graduate market. And one of the best ways you can do this is to do a placement year, because it's a chance for you to apply theory, learn new things from the people that surround you out in the industry. And the sort of things you will be doing on placement will be very different from anybody else. Even the person that did the placement before you, you can connect, you can build that network of really useful people who can introduce you to all kinds of career ideas. Even, you've got the chance to explore new sectors. And at the point in time you actually go out on placement, you might have some idea of what you want to be doing long term, but the best thing about a placement is you can experiment with not only who you are as a professional engineer, but what you want to get out of your degree, what you want to get out of your first graduate job. And it's not a career commitment either. You do a year out there. If you make a few mistakes along the way, then fine, you've still found out something useful. And the best thing about it is that you can spot what the next careers are that are coming up, because you're actually out there experiencing that year, that industry, that sector. And so you come out of a placement year with all that valuable experience to put in front of a graduate recruiter. And more and more, actually, placement, the reason why companies are doing placement is actually also to cherry pick some, the students that connect the best and offer them graduate jobs while they're actually on the placement year. So, there are all kinds of reasons to do a placement. So if I could have the next slide, please. So there are other advantages to doing the sector as doing the placement as well. Statistically, it is the case that students who've done a placement and then come back, I was talking earlier on the earlier slide about gaining all that applied theory, putting things into practice and learning from the engineers around you. Well, all that comes into play when you're doing your final year modules. You find that students that have been on placement understand their subject a lot deeper, a lot wider, and hence they tend to get slightly better degree grades than they might have done had they not gone on placement. Students can also come back with dissertation ideas from their placement. They might come back with fully formed topics from their placement year, but you've got the chance then to engage with the support that you might still be getting from your employer, your placement employer, during your final year, and bring all that real world first-hand information and experience into it. As I said, you've got better prospects. Recruiters like ex-placement students, if you think about it from their point of view, which is something else we encourage you to do when you're looking at the recruitment process, is always be thinking of it from their point of view. But if you think about it, you've got two students who come out of university with pretty much the same subjects, the same grades. One's done a placement, one hasn't. I mean, it doesn't really take a genius to work out which one that the employer might prefer. And I'm not saying, the sandwich placement is the only way of getting that experience. There are summer placements, there are short experiences you can do as well. And the one thing we're doing as a team, one of the there are positives that have come out of the recent COVID situation. One of the things we're looking at is looking at the diversity of what we support and how we support it and how it's delivered. Virtual placements, a lot of placements went 100% virtual almost overnight back in March last year. That was a huge learning curve for a lot of employers as well, who suddenly realized that that is now a possibility, that they can have blended placements, that they can widen the scope of what they offer students out as a placement year. Yeah, so it's all about improving your prospects and experiencing the recruitment from both sides as well. You get that when you're looking for a placement year. Basically, that process is exactly the same as when you'd be looking for a graduate job. So you've got a chance to kind of practice your effectiveness in getting professional graduate level work. And when you're out on placement, there is a distinct possibility that the company might actually get you involved in the recruitment of your successor. And so you then see it from the recruiter perspective as well. And all that you bring back into your final year when you are looking for that graduate job that you're after. And that's valuable experience to have behind you when you're, as I said, when you're looking for your graduate job. If you could move the slides forward, please. Like Raj, I've got a whole range of companies that I work with. These are only some of them. As I, typically on slides like this from university, you see, we'll put up names that you recognize. There's a whole raft of business-to-business engineering companies that are not household names, but are very well respected within the industry that we work with. Large companies, you can see them up there, but they're also, we also work very positively with medium-sized small companies. And that's something else that we talk to you about when you're looking for your placement year. What sort of experience do you want? Do you want the big multinational experience? Do you want to experience that kind of global outlook, working in a big company, working in a name? Or do you want to be a bigger part of a smaller company? If you're in a small company, you're going to be involved in absolutely everything going on. You're going to learn a whole raft of things. Maybe, nothing exists on its own. You're not just going to be a mechanical engineer, but for example, you're going to be a mechanical engineer rubbing shoulders with electrical engineers and computer systems and all sorts of things. So the chances for, learning things outside of your degree subject are enhanced. We are, as Raj said, Brunel's got a very good reputation out there. So we have very positive relationships with a lot of companies. That reputation is based on the students that have gone before you, to a large extent. I would, and that's, I think, not just about the quality of the students that we have at Brunel, but it's also about maybe reflects on the quality of support that Raj and I give you while you're actually out on placement. We start working with you from day one, as soon as you appear on campus, hopefully. Raj will be in there supporting you. I support you all the way through the second year, and then Raj takes you back at, once you finish your placement. Few tips for now. So I want to end my presentation on giving you something a little bit, tangible to go away with, in terms of, as I say, I very much reflect what Raj was saying. Is about differentiating yourself. I talk to second year students who, they don't realize how valuable that job at Tesco's was, for example. It's all about, no engineering company looking at a placement student is going to expect you to have direct engineering experience behind you. They're going to expect you to be able to communicate the transferable skills that you've got from part-time work, from community activity, from volunteering, from all kinds of extracurricular things you do, the projects, the personal interests you have. And as I say, we show you how to communicate those through a CV. but then it's up to you to kind of back that up in an interview. So what I would encourage you to do now, start it now, is try and be proactive as you can, but keep a little journal, a little running diary of things you're doing and what skills that involved, and maybe a little bit about the story that went behind that. Collect any feedback from people who said, oh, you did a good job there. Just, you don't have to, it's not like a diary, you don't have to do it every day, but just have that kind of reflective skills journal going before you hit university. Keep it going through your first year. And then when you come to look for placements, and when the company's asking you in an interview, can you describe a time when you've worked effectively in a team? What did you do? It's all there. It's all ready to go, and in applications. So as I say, I want to kind of leave you with that kind of tip, to be as proactive as you can, record your experiences, try and get involved in everything. Everything is valuable, everything is relevant. It doesn't have to be engineering. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate that, and it's really, really good advice. And thank you, Raj. It was really interesting to see an overview of the graduate job market, and really brilliant and reassuring. There's how much support there is out there for our students. And thanks, John. You really solidified how important placements and work experience is at the moment for all students. And it's great to see how many companies we work with. Fantastic. Now, moving forward, I am pleased to introduce you to Beth, who is a student at Brunel University London, and she will be talking about her experience studying. And I just want to remind you, this is a really good opportunity to ask any questions in the Q&A box that you have. Anything that Raja said, John has mentioned, but also Beth, especially Beth, because she is a student studying at the moment, and she was in your shoes a few years ago. So feel free to ask those questions in the Q&A box, which is located at the bottom of your screen. Over to you, Beth.
Thank you, Kieran. Hi, everyone. As Kieran said, my name's Beth, and I'm currently at Brunel studying civil engineering with professional development, which means I have done the year placement that John was just speaking to you about. And I'm also on the MEng, which is the integrated master's course. So in total, my course is 5 years, and I'm just finishing my 4th year. As far as what I did before university, I took A-levels and I did maths, physics, and DT product design. And to be fair, I didn't do as well as I was hoping in those, but it hasn't mattered when I've come to university. So first of all, when I was applying for the degree I wanted to do, I know, especially in engineering, you're not really taught what each field of engineering is when you're applying. So I wasn't sure when I started, and I just was looking at all the different engineerings. And for me, I went to my first open day at university with, I'd sort of narrowed it down to mechanical or civil engineering. I went to both talks, and after listening to both, I just decided, you know what, for me, civil engineering sounds like that's the one that I will enjoy doing the most. I then went on and applied, obviously, for Brunel, got in, and then starting Brunel. So straight away, as both John and Raj mentioned, the Professional Development Centre, the PDC, were really helpful, and they came into lectures in the first year and second year, especially the second year. There was a module purely on the professional side of it and improving CV and stuff. So in that second year, I had a couple of one-on-one sessions with the Professional Development Centre and John, where we really improved my CV. I learned a lot about interview skills and everything like that. And I was fortunate enough to get a placement at Mace, who are a large contractor. They were on projects such as the Shard, London Eye, Olympic Stadium, and Heathrow Terminal 5. And that's actually where I was working. I was working at Heathrow as a design manager on my placement year. I really enjoyed it. It was amazing. Everything that John was saying about the advantages of doing a placement, I 100% agree with. My job role in particular was looking after a huge design package in Terminal 3, where it involved structural engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical, fire, everything, bringing that together, making sure it met all the standards and would work and could be built, and then working out how it was going to be built, moving on to site. And then unfortunately, just as we got to site, COVID hit, we had to stop it all. But the plan is still that site's going to go ahead. I really enjoyed it. And again, as John mentioned, I was involved in the recruitment of the person after me on placement, as well as that. As far as other things that I've done at university, a major thing that also helped me get my placement was societies. I'm part of 2 societies, CivSoc and Innovia, Women in STEM, and both of those provide so many opportunities. And that is my major bit of advice, is always take every opportunity you get. So with the societies at university, you get the opportunity to hear talks from industry members that you may not otherwise get, and you may think you're not that interested in the topic, but actually there's so many transferable things between topics that it's still really useful no matter who's talking, really. Site visits, trips to places such as, I've been down to Crossrail, seen the tunnels being finished there, some motorway projects. I've been to Airbus factory in Toulouse with Innovia, and also workshops on just networking things, especially networking. We have a few networking events where we talk to industry members. I also was part of the YBEC, which is mentoring scheme, which meant in second year I had a mentor from someone from industry who again really helped me. She helped me with placement stuff as well as university stuff. When I came back from placement for my course, it really helped. First of all, there are some modules that some of the stuff I'd learned on placement came directly into, such as the design part. We had a design module and immediately I was part of that. And also it's helped massively with being able to work in teams better and just more the transferable soft skills that aren't so technically linked. That's also what it helped with. And then what else is it on the thing? And then so post Brunel, post Brunel, I'm still in contact with my placement company. I speak to them quite a bit, and it's looking very likely that I'm going to go back there for my graduate job after my final year. It may not be to Heathrow, but it's looking like I'm going back there, which is really good. So yeah, I definitely, like I say, biggest advices are recommend taking every opportunity you can. I personally got my placement with the help of a 1-week work experience that was offered by the PDC in first year at Heathrow. I then got to speak about that at interview, and when I was speaking about it at interview, it really helped get me in the door for my placement, which has now helped me get me into my grad job. So it's all a link from just the smallest opportunity to having a grad job that's helped me with that. And my other advice is just when you're at university and you're doing all the modules and everything, is just to make sure you just stay on top of it all. And time management, that's something I struggled with first year, was more the time management aspect and learning how to self-study. So yeah, any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Beth. Really enjoyed that. And as Beth mentioned, open days are very, very, very important, especially if you're thinking and you're at that stage of which engineering course I want to go into. And please speak, if you're a sixth form student or college student, and please speak to your career advisors at school, at college as well, and they'll give you some information. But open days are very important because it gives you a chance to see the university virtually, or hopefully when we can get back onto campus. But it also allows you to ask the questions to the lecturers. It also allows you to ask questions to the ambassadors who are studying the various engineering subjects. And the best source of answers you can get are from the ambassadors, or the students that are studying those subjects, because they can give you a real insight of what they are studying and what each year is like. I'm glad your placement year went well as well. And as John and Raj echoed, it is, you know, lots of invaluable experience. And those jobs, you know, you get them before, you know, you get them at school or college, use those transferable skills into, you know, your placement student, and you can take that forward as well. And as Beth said, always take every opportunity that's at university or in placement or your job. That's very important. And what I really liked what Beth said is networking is key. Whoever you meet in the field, inside of university or outside of university, at networking events, each networking event, each person you meet in the field may lead to an opportunity. So that's very, very important. So thank you for that, Beth. Right, so now I would, last but not least, I would like to welcome a former Brunel University student called Alexandra Raynac, who will discuss her professional life since leaving Brunel and how Brunel shaped her career. So I would like to hand it over to Alexandra, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Alex, and as Kira just said, I used to study at Brunel. So I started studying aerospace engineering in September 2014. And I moved on to a PhD, which I did from October 2017 until last March. So I actually only recently finished studying at Brunel. I submitted my thesis last February and defended it in March. I now work as a development engineer for a company called Aleks Energy. So if I could have the next slide, please. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the job hunting journey. For me, it was a little bit special, let's say, because I had to find a job in the midst of a pandemic, which was not easy. So towards the end of my PhD, I started sort of properly job hunting. I was looking, always had my eye on what was out there throughout my PhD, but I started properly applying for jobs last November. By February, I had nearly 150 applications submitted. I actually kept a spreadsheet, so this is an accurate number. So yeah, I applied for a lot of positions, and actually about 95% of them never even responded to me. The other 4% outright rejected me, and maybe 1% actually responded to me. Now, this is, I'm not saying this to put you down by any means. This is actually, I hope that by the time you are looking for a job, this situation is greatly improved. But this is just sort of to give you a realistic idea, and so that when you finally at one point go and apply for jobs, you have a realistic approach to what it's going to look like, and you don't sort of get discouraged after a month. So anyway, by February, I had 2 final interview stages. And an interesting thing is actually this type of networking is that one of the jobs I didn't apply for, I was actually contacted by a recruiter through LinkedIn who offered me an interview. And yeah, so I had 2 interview stages, 2 final interview stages. And by mid-March, I had 2 offers from those companies. One of them was Aleks Energy, who I work for now, and that's the company that contacted me on LinkedIn. So can I have a next slide, please? So one of the things I wanted to tell you about is peer-assisted learning project at Brunel. This actually came really quite handy when I was looking for jobs. So in year 3, during my undergraduate degree, I started volunteering with PAL. So if you're not familiar with PAL, this is a project that aims to facilitate discussion and activity sessions for year 1 students. So after a year of volunteering, I was actually offered a paid position within the project as a senior leader. So I worked with many volunteers. I prepared sessions, training sessions for the volunteers, and offered them feedback. as well as contributing to a regional conference. So not only this helped develop me personally and helped me gain many friends, it, as I said, came pretty handy when I was applying for jobs. This was a very interesting thing to discuss at interviews and online activities. I had many experiences that were relevant to the questions that were asked by potential employers. So if I could have the next slide. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the company I work for now. So Aleks Energy are quite a new company, and we develop stable salt reactors. This is a novel technology which is developed by Aleks, and we own patents for it. What we do is we build stable salt reactors. This is for nuclear energy, for providing low-cost clean energy. So apart from the reactors themselves, we also offer recycling of the current nuclear waste from conventional reactors to rid the environment of the nuclear waste, and by doing so also produce extra clean energy. The last thing we also offer is the capability to store the produced energy and supply it to the grid as needed. So this is a very novel thing within the nuclear industry. And by being able to store the nuclear energy, we are actually enabling intermittent renewables. So Aleks aren't saying that nuclear energy is the only thing that will save the environment. We are actually saying that we'd like to supplement renewable energy. I could have the next slide, please. To give you a little bit of background on nuclear energy, over the years, and particularly at the beginning of the 80s, the capital cost of nuclear reactors skyrocketed. This is directly linked to events such as Chernobyl events. And since then, the prices have been more or less going up. Now, this isn't a viable, current price per kilowatt of nuclear energy is not a viable option. So what we are actually aiming at with Aleks is to significantly bring down the capital cost of nuclear energy. So as you can see in the light blue on the right-hand side, what we are aiming to do is to bring down the cost to below $2,000 per kilowatt. And what that will enable us to do is to directly compete with coal and gas energy. And this is the only thing we believe will eradicate coal and gas energy. As long as the nuclear energy and renewables are more expensive than coal and gas, poorer countries will never be able to go for clean energy. Let me have the next slide, please. And another pillar of Aleks Energy is making the reactors inherently safe. So our approach is complete elimination of risk. The perfect example of it is the complete elimination of water in our reactors, which heated becomes highly pressurized. So what we do basically is, when we come against a risk, instead of trying to engineer ways to shield people from these risks, we ask ourselves, what can we do to completely eliminate the risk? So as I said, a perfect example is the elimination of water from our reactors. So our reactors have no water in them. Everything is based on molten salt. And by doing so, we have our reactors are completely at atmospheric pressure. We have no high pressurized components, and therefore no risk of explosions. If I could have the next slide, please. So here is where I come into Aleks. So again, I joined last April, so I haven't been working with Aleks for that long. I work as a development engineer, and I work on thermohydraulic development of one of the SSR designs. So what we do is we design experiments and experimental rigs to investigate the concept that we are developing. I tell you also that I work in a team that consists of 3 engineers, one of which is me, a chemist and a metallurgist. So this again ties to what John and Raj and Beth spoke about before me. You will never be working just with engineers. You'll also always be working in big groups of different backgrounds, and you'll have many opportunities to learn completely new things. The thing that I probably enjoy the most about Maltex is the freedom. Because the company is so new and so small, we actually have quite a lot of freedom to suggest things. And although we are just, let's say, small employees, our voices are always heard. So if I could have the next slide, please. So I thought I'd also take this opportunity to give you a couple of tips that I wish I had last November when I was applying for jobs. So as I said, it is never too early to start looking. I was looking for jobs all the way to my PhD. So that is definitely one thing to keep in mind. It is never too early. And build a visually pleasing and easy to read CV. I think that this may sound like a cliche, but you would be surprised how many sort of very messy CVs you can see out there. And be sure that if you have a messy CV, you'll be rejected outright. And a very important thing, again, ties to what Raven and John said, never stop editing your CV. Always make sure that you tweak it to the various jobs that you apply for. I applied for 150 different positions, and believe me, I had 150 different CVs. So this is a very important thing. And also editing the sort of the quality of it. If you have an idea of how to make it better, just do it. Never stop editing it. The other thing is networking. Again, this is the same thing that John and Raj said, but honestly, a perfect example. I got a job through LinkedIn. So take your time, take a day, take a week, make your LinkedIn profile stand out. Don't just make your LinkedIn profile and leave it there with a picture and a couple of words. Make it stand out. And again, this is your CV. So never stop editing it. Always add things. And any tips for interviews? My tips for interviews would be to be yourself and to be as friendly and engaging as you can be. Basically, what you want to do in an interview is to make them, people who are interviewing you, is to make them want to work with you every day. So it's as much about your skills as it is about your personality. And a very important thing is don't be afraid to ask questions. This is a two-way street. They want to see if they want to work with you, but you also want to see if you want to work with them. So please, please, please don't be afraid to ask questions. Can I have the next slide, please? So I was also asked to say what I would do differently if I had to do it all over again. So one thing would be to get involved in projects like PAL much sooner than year 3. I didn't do a placement yet, and I don't regret it, but in certain ways I regret it, in others I don't. But definitely get involved and get those experiences. Like John said, it doesn't have to be a placement. It can be other things, volunteering and other part-time jobs. So do that, please. And another thing I'd do differently is open up to other fields and possibilities much sooner than I did. So as I said, I studied aerospace engineering, and then I did a PhD in mechanical engineering. And believe me, up until last March, I did not think I was going to work in nuclear industry, but here I am. So just keep an open mind, because you never know. And I love it. I love my job at the moment. So happy days. And the last thing I would do differently is stress less. So I stressed quite a lot throughout my degree. I always want to have the best grades and to be top of my class. So I was quite a wreck and quite a ball of stress. So maybe I couldn't really enjoy the journey as much because of that stress. So that would be the last thing that I would change to stress less. So that's it. That's me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Aleks. When I was listening to you, I felt very inspired. So, and congratulations on everything that you've achieved. Just a few things that you said. You're very focused, very determined. It's very important. Well, you know, when you're applying and you may feel like you get knocked back, just never give up. That's really, really important. And again, you know, talk to people around you. If it's at Brunel University or any university that you attend, it's really important to use your support network around you to ask those questions. As I said, echoed, networking is very important. Aleks, you know, got an interview without applying, so that's how important networking is via LinkedIn. Great tips. Thank you for that, and brilliant. So if anything, you can take anything. Those tips are fantastic, and exactly what Aleks said. CVs are very, very important. Keep editing it constantly. Each job, even if it's various engineering jobs or any job that you apply to, if you look at the skills and the experience, some of the skills may be different to the others. So it's really important to tailor your CV for each job you apply to. So thank you very much, Aleks. So as I said, please feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A function box, as it's time to ask the questions now. So first of all, we have a few questions from the people who are listening in today. So, but one of the first question is, I think I'm going to, if I could ask this to John and maybe Raj, if you'd like to add in afterwards. What is the placement support provided by university on completion in the MSc in data science? So what is the placement support provided by university on completion of MSc in data science and its scope?
What I would do at this point is I'll hand over to Raj actually to answer that one.
Okay, so there's the clarification that's needed here is on the terminology of placement. Now, across the country, different terminology is given for the term placement. Now, in this context, I'm pretty confident that we're talking about placement in terms of a graduate job. So you're on a data science course, and that would be a postgraduate course. There is a lot of support that we offer to students on our postgraduate courses. There's a few things that I was going to mention anyway, and I was scribbling some notes while this excellent panel of speakers was going through things. So the very first thing that we would offer in terms of support would be offering you part-time jobs, opening up internships, and small bits of work experience. That is all open to postgraduate students. We would work with you to, within the parameters of your course, within the parameters of any visa restrictions, find you relevant work. The careers advisors would support you doing that. There is 3 years of support after graduation for all students that come to Brunel, and that is true of postgraduate students as well. But one thing you have to remember is when it comes to a placement like John and Beth were talking about, that placement is for undergraduate students because that is a comprehensive part of their course. That is something that is not available currently. I might be mistaken, Kieran, you could correct me, but on our data science course, I don't believe that's currently available. That may change, but the placement that you refer to would be a graduate job, and you would get a dedicated careers consultant. In fact, that's me. So I look after all the IT courses. I go in very early on in that course. So John had already referred to going in very early on, but in fact, we go into inductions. So as soon as you arrive, and we hope and pray that's going to be face-to-face, and there will be face-to-face inductions. This year I've done virtual inductions. So nothing has changed in terms of our service provision. If anything, we have increased our service provision. So there's a huge amount of support when it comes to graduate jobs, and that is probably the terminology that I would encourage you to start using. The placement would be for an undergraduate year out in industry.
Thank you so much, Raj, and I hope you found that helpful. We have another question, and I know, Raj, you just mentioned it slightly. Is it, if you're an international student, is it simple to find a placement? So that might be Raj or John.
I'm happy to handle that one. So the question is, as an international student, is it any easier or harder to find a placement? In fact, as an international student, you've got the same chances of being recruited onto a placement as any other student under what used to be known as Tier 4 visa. I can't quite remember the current terminology, but it's literally changed this year. Because it's part of your degree, it's a module within your degree, you are fully supported to find a full-time paid year-long placement in exactly the same way as any other student. What you bring as an international student to this, though, is that confidence you can give to an employer that you've already made a whole load of cultural, spatial, physical shifts that allow them to consider you to be a far more flexible and adaptable employee. Chances are you come with language capabilities as well. And so, for that reason, I'm a bit of a fan of international students trying their best to get hold of places, because I think it's not that you're any better or worse, but I think you've got a very different set of skills to offer an employer potentially, and a very valuable set of skills. So yeah, go for it. Yeah, hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John. Got a question for Beth now. What has been the most challenging aspect of your course,
I don't know. There's a few other than the maths, which it's maths. There'll always be difficult parts of it. Like I said, I guess the most challenging part when you first come is the difference between school, where everything is sort of handheld, and coming to university and having sort of being told you need to self-study and actually doing that. And one in particular, I'd say, for getting ready for industry, because it's something that you still need in industry that I was not good at in first year, is, and Roger already said you should do this, is keeping the sort of weekly or even fortnightly just log of what you've done and the opportunities you've had. It's so good for when you come back to look at it and to see. And at first I wasn't that good at it, but you come back and it's sort of skills and experience that you may forget otherwise, or you may not mention in other things. And like I say, you do it at university, and the reason why they do it at university is because this is something you have to do once you have graduated. For most engineering jobs, if you want to become chartered, it's part of the chartership process, is keeping a track of what you do when you're working. So for me, I think the most challenging thing at the first was that I wasn't amazing at remembering to just work on it every week, and I was becoming a bit dependent on at the end of the month sort of quickly typing stuff down, but it's not as fresh in your mind then. So I think it's remembering to sort of do it 10 minutes a week. Just, I did this week, and it might be just a small thing, but actually when it comes to being asked it in an interview, if you've written it down already somewhere, it might come to your head just that little bit quicker of, oh yeah, I did this as well. Like,
fantastic, Beth. And just one more question, if I could, Beth.
Yep.
For a student who is considering Brunel University London but isn't too sure yet, what would you advise them?
So when choosing university, I say that the major thing for me, it almost, this is going to sound cliche, it just felt right. I really like the campus, and I would say, I know it's COVID and you may not be able to come to campus, but if you can, or you would manage to get on one of the virtual tours or have a look at one of the virtual tours, I really would, because the campus is really a huge draw to it. And personally for me, and obviously this might be biased, but I do think the professional development here, my brother goes to a different university, so I've got a bit of comparison to be able to go. The professional development centre here, I believe, provides so much support with getting you ready for industry that my friends and my brother just haven't had. it doesn't match. So that's what I'd say for Brunel, is the campus is great. It's really diverse, which is also great. And just the final thing is their focus on getting you ready for industry, which ultimately is the reason you come to university mostly. So
thank you so much, Beth. Perfect. And I'd just like to echo what Beth said. It's really important to attend virtual open days, but at Brunel University, we will be running campus tours from the 7th of June. So if you want to book your place, please book it on our website, or if you want more information. Fantastic. Now, can I have, there's a question for Aleks. Do you think all students should create a LinkedIn account, because as you've mentioned that in your presentation, and how can you use it effectively?
So I think that the simple answer would be yes. I think that we live in the age where social media is just everywhere. Everyone uses it. I don't think you'll find many students who don't have Facebook or Instagram or other social media accounts, and LinkedIn is just another one of those channels. It's just more professional. So the simple answer would be yes, and basically it's just a virtual version of your CV with your picture, but also a place where you can show your activity and your professional interest. Yeah, so the simple answer would be yes. I think everyone should create a LinkedIn. And did you say how to improve it?
How to use it effectively?
Yeah. So I think that one thing would be to follow all the sort of companies that you're interested in and potentially would like to work with in the future. You can follow them as on any other media, social media platform. So you can follow their activities. Many companies, bigger and smaller, post regular updates on their LinkedIn profiles. They post a lot of jobs on LinkedIn that they don't post anywhere else. So sometimes LinkedIn is the first place they post jobs. So if you follow them, you might be one of the first people to see that job. So the key tip from me would be to just basically follow as many companies as you can, and obviously what you are interested in, and just follow their activity.
Thank you so much, Aleks. And can I just kindly remind everyone, if you would like to ask a question, please kindly use the Q&A box function, which is at the bottom of the screen. Thank you very much. So next question, and the next question is for Raj. If you can kindly answer, what engineering fields are prevalent at the moment?
Okay, let's have a look. I actually went through and looked at our jobs board and saw some jobs that had come up, and so I'll give you a little bit of an understanding. Now, markets that came back quite quickly involved technology, as I'm sure you can appreciate. You know, I'm sure you read about the success that Zoom had and the such platforms. So technology companies came back quite quickly. They were looking for electrical engineering students. Pharmaceuticals came back quite quickly, and they were some of the jobs that we saw quite quickly. I saw some advertising for chemical engineers, and then civil engineering and mechanical engineering, advertising things such as graduate safety engineers, power electrical engineers, and then mechanical engineers. Health companies that came back quite quickly included Renishaw, Ultra Electronics, and I think just the fact that, you know, John was saying it, and I just want to echo it, the solid employer relationships we had meant that when companies had ideas or thought about coming back, they actually wanted to have a conversation with us. They've got an existing relationship. We've done it for them for years and years, and they came back to us to have a conversation about how it might shape out. And so I think it's testament to the relationships and the work that we'd already done. But then, like I said earlier, we don't really sit there and rest on our laurels. We were very proactive in reaching out to all of our employers, even those placement providers that said they weren't going to go and do anything this year. That placement team, and John's smiling because I'm sure he was instrumental in it, went out and said, what else can we do? Let's do virtual internships, and they definitely happened.
If I can add to that, I think one of the things we're going to be doing going forward is we've got the year placement model that we assess as part of an integrated element of an undergraduate degree. I don't think I'm kind of giving away any secrets to say that we are positively looking at, for example, summer placements, which traditionally aren't credited into degrees, at trying to develop a way of putting those into a student's degree, along with other forms of work that may not fit the sandwich year model. So both us and employers, I think this is the point I'm making, both us and employers are looking as creatively. I've been doing this for 20 odd years, and I think that what's happened creatively in the last year has kind of been quite a revelation to employers and to us in terms of what is possible going forward. And I think given that you'll be looking for your placements in 2 years' time, the landscape might well be quite positive and a little bit different, hopefully.
Thank you so much, John and Raj, for that. Okay, brilliant. So if you have got any questions, again, if you could put it on the Q&A chat, we'll be finishing in the next minute. But if not, I'd just like to say thank you so much for attending today's session, and especially asking some great questions as well. It's really important when you attend virtual events or even the open days, really prepare questions or really ask questions. This is what we're here for. I would also like to thank our panelists, Raj, John, Beth and Alex. Thank you so much. If you can kindly complete our survey, should be posted in our chat chat at the moment. It would be great if we could receive your feedback. You also will receive an email with the survey link as well, and you'll have an opportunity to win 2 times £50 Amazon vouchers as well. So if you do that, that's a great incentive to complete the survey. But for us, it really helps us to understand what you enjoyed about the presentation, what you need more from us. So it's a great feedback for us. So thank you once again, and I wish you the best of luck. And just if you've got any questions, please feel free to email us as well. So thank you very much and take care. Bye-bye.